Hi guys, happy Friday. It is time for us to do another session of our live Heat Press for Profit podcast. And as you can see, our guest is already here on camera. And I'm really excited for today's conversation because I fully believe in samples and letting people see the product of what you can really provide for them. And so our conversation is with our guest, the owner of Duds by Dudes, Brian Geffen, and he is the owner, but he just said he was the chief dude, and I thought that was pretty awesome to run with for a title. So today we are talking about samples and really how to drive orders with effective sampling strategies. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and if you are joining us live, tell us where you're tuning in from, what your name is, and of course your business. You guys know we love to always shout out. Now on today's live, this is a perfect time for you to ask questions for either myself or for Brian. We will definitely pull those into the conversation and do our best to get those answered for you. And it's always great to get a decorator's perspective and really hear from somebody that is running with this type of process. So Brian, thanks so much for taking time out of your day. Happy Friday. Now tell everybody a little bit about yourself and who Duds by Dudes is.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. It's fun to be here. Duds by Dudes. So I started Duds by Dudes about 20 years ago in my college dorm room for beer money. That is how we got our start. I went to school in Boulder, Colorado, who's been hot in the headlines these days. And I knew a guy. I went to school in Colorado. I knew a guy in San Diego that made shirts because I had to make class shirts for my senior year of high school. I joined a fraternity, and the fraternity asked if anyone knew of anyone that could make your classic like Rush shirts or whatever it was. And I raised my hand and became the t-shirt guy just because I knew the guy in San Diego. And then my roommate in my dorm room noticed I was doing stuff for my fraternity, and he asked if I could do stuff for his fraternity. And he was a bit of a douchebag. And so I knew I was going to buy shirts from my guy in San Diego and just add like $1 to them or 50 cents or whatever it was before I sold them to this guy for his fraternity. And I don't know, I made like $20 or something like that. And that was in those days, $20 in Boulder, that was like 20 drinks, probably, maybe even less than that, honestly. And so that was kind of the light bulb moment. And fast forward 20 years, we've grown in size, in equipment offering. We've matured slightly, not a lot, but a little bit. And we've outgrown a few buildings. We've sort of pivoted business models here and there. But I guess the long story short, we started outsourcing everything. And then we got into actually, the first piece of equipment we ever bought was a heat press because we were doing a lot of teams after we were doing the fraternity stuff. We just needed a lot of numbering. We then acquired so we were outsourcing everything until 2014. In 2014, we bought a business that was doing just screen printing. They had 2 half functional automatic presses at the time. And we sort of, again, this is such a long story short, but we then outgrew the space we were in there, moved into a new space. That's when we brought in, I think we got like 1 heat press just to have kind of thing in those days. Then we brought in embroidery, learned the power of heat press and heat applied product, got another press and another press. Same thing happened on the embroidery heads and the screen printing head and the screen print machines. So now we're at 4. So we run 4 automatics. We run all rocks on the presses. We run M&R dryers. We run 2 shifts for everything that we do. We have a little rapid tag. I don't know if you count that as an automatic as well or not, but for neck labels and little things. On the embroidery side, we have 24 heads at the moment. And then on the heat applied product side, we have, what do we have? We have 2 dual fusion IQs, top heat and bottom heat. bottom heat, I think, is super underrated. We have 4 360 hat press IQ 360, whatever those are called. 4 of those.
360, and people are like, "Yep, we know what those are."
Yep. We have like the old school Hotronics hat press. I don't even know actually what that's called. And then we have one. We have another. Man, I forgot. Yeah, we have 2 other just like clamshell, like 18 by 20 presses.
Yeah.
So we have a nice electricity bill around here.
I'm sure. Are you the tech that gets to set all that up, or you have somebody that you call to make sure everything's running correctly?
We actually had to upgrade. So we just moved into the space we're in. We just moved here in June, so that was a fun process, and we did have to upgrade the power and all that, which I had very little to do with other than just nodding my head in the electrical meetings and paying the electrician and the permits and all that. But no, we've got a great team here. We have one person in particular, Joe, who's become like the absolute champion of all things heat applied product technology. So if there's any issues, he's usually pretty good at getting us back up to speed right away, or talking to you guys to help solve whatever the problem may or may not be.
Love it. So as you've gone over your business, you have a lot of equipment, you have a lot of decoration opportunities. And when you have such a variety of, potential decoration methods, how did you get into really kind of the idea that the sample is what's going to sell moving forward? Approval process, how does it increase, your orders? How did you really kind of come into that business model?
Yeah. So honestly, my whole life, even before I got into this, I've always had the belief that samples sell, right? I mean, I feel like people have heard that phrase, samples sell, and samples do sell. They sell. I used to, like sell popcorn at the movie theaters, and I even remember this was like a zillion years ago when they brought in this new like flavored. I don't know, like flavored popcorn powder, and they were like offering free samples, right? And that's why anybody does free samples of anything. You go to a mall or whatever, free samples. Samples sell. It's the old. I think they call it the puppy dog close, is the official sales lingo for sample sell. But I've just always kind of believed in the technique. I'd also tell you that we don't do it enough. I'm going to talk to you about how great we are at it and all this stuff and how it works. But the truth is, we're also the biggest culprits of not doing it as much as we should be. We should really do it even more than we do, because it works. And I don't think it just works from a sales perspective as far as like bringing in new orders, but I think it's really, really, really helped us upsell the existing customers we have. I think for us, the most powerful aspect of the samples sell mantra is samples upsell. And so I'll give you an example. We just had a job like 2 months ago. Really, really cool art. It was a military job, so like crazy explosions in the background and guys jumping out of planes, and there were some jets. It was really awesome art. And so we were sampling the job, because once a job's over a certain size for us, no matter once a job exceeds certain sizes, we require a sample to cover our butt and our customer too. And so in this particular case, we were sampling it anyways. And they just wanted it on a basic t-shirt. It was a screen print job. And just for fun, we threw in a hoodie, because we thought, man, this would look really cool on a hoodie, and they're going to sell these things and they look awesome. They could make way more margin selling a hoodie than a t-shirt, and we could make more margin selling a hoodie versus a t-shirt. And so when we gave them the sample for the t-shirt that they wanted, and they were, by the way, very specific. They like called out the exact t-shirt SKU, that like everything. And so we gave them the t-shirt sample, and we also gave them the hoodie sample, and they took it back to their committee and they loved it. They loved the hoodie. And ultimately they ended up buying $75,000 worth of hoodies on top of the t-shirt order. And like, if I never did another sample again, that made it worth it for the next several years. Just that one upsell.
Yeah.
It was huge for us. Yeah.
So when it comes to kind of going with the mentality of the upsell, right? Like, so they were approving the t-shirt, but then you said, hey, let's throw in this hoodie and see if it changes, their perspective. And instead of them switching from a t-shirt to a hoodie, it actually added on to the order. Is that something you do for, like you said, there's a certain requirement of pieces. So if somebody has, what's the minimum before they have to have the sample approval?
So it depends. It depends on the type of customer and if we're providing blanks or it's a contract. But usually it's either 5,000 pieces or $10,000, whatever's less.
So in that case, when you're trying to take, say, a basic screen print, maybe one location t-shirt, at what point do you decide to really go, you know what, I think this customer might like this product that isn't 10,000 pieces? You said that you guys don't sample enough, but yet you know that it is a proven method for yourself. So is that something you come up with? Do you have a sales team that says, no, I want to really kind of show this sample and see if I can, reposition, what product they're purchasing?
Yeah. So, So the truth is, like I said, we don't do that enough. It usually comes, it honestly usually comes from me. It's usually me or a few key people who have been here a long time that kind of have an idea on the type of things that I like to sample in the past.
Sure.
But as I'm having this conversation with you right now, I'm thinking to myself, okay, on Monday we should probably have a team meeting about, when in doubt, let's sample.
Yeah.
And it's because it's so easy. It especially if you're running a sample anyways for something, or you're already running a design, to throw it, if you're not selling the technique but you're trying to upsell a garment, it is so easy to add a garment to the end of the run, whether it's embroidery or screen printing or heat applied, it doesn't matter. Just to throw an extra garment in there is so easy. And if you have a relationship, with your apparel vendor, we just had a meeting last week with, shout out to Stacy from SNS. We had a whole conversation about how if we ever want to run extra samples at the end of a run, just let her know, and she'd be happy to sample us those garments. So it doesn't even cost us any extra money. And Stacy's not dumb. She knows it's going to cost her a few bucks from her sample budget, but odds are we're now going to buy that product because we're trying to upsell the customer on a more premium product or different colorway or whatever it is.
But that's really all from your brain power. That's not something where you've had the conversation and maybe they've talked about hoodies in the past. So you're like, let's just toss a hoodie in there. It's really about understanding the opportunity with the customer, what type of products they like, what type of decoration they like. It's not just going what I call willy-nilly and just throwing, coins out there and seeing if it bites. There's truly a method to the madness in understanding what you're sampling.
Yeah, so we definitely, in addition to art being really cool or whatever, we also, like, when I'm making those decisions, I'm thinking about what is the capacity of the customer, right? And so if we're working with someone who has zero buying power with the organization, it's quite clear that they're just like the messenger, and there's no like running it up the flagpole. Like, okay, we might be spinning our wheels on a sample in that situation, but if you're talking to someone who is a decision maker, you can kind of tell that they're not 100% set in stone. There's a lot of upside to the opportunity that they're buying product for. That's what we're looking for. Also, a lot of times if a customer is back and forth on like if they want to go for the premium product or not, you can tell they're torn. But at the end of the day, they're just kind of voting with their pocketbook, so to speak. It's one last attempt to get them to to go from the basic 100% regular cotton shirt to the tri blend or whatever it is.
Now, with that one particular order where they added the sweatshirts, right? Have you had instances where you've sampled one product that was approved for the initial order and you sampled another one and they came back and they reordered what you sampled, or they at least liked the idea, so then that gained reoccurring business?
Sorry, somebody just came and knocked on my door. Can you will you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. So when you talk about the t-shirt and the sweatshirt order, in that particular situation, they had added to the order. So you had the sweatshirt added to that order at that point in time. Have there been other situations where you've sampled, an additional product, and instead of them doing it with that order, that first order, that reorder of whatever it was that was sampled, they came back and now became a recurring customer, but went with a different product? So now you have a couple of different orders with them.
Yes, I have a perfect example, and you're going to love it because this was taking a customer out of screen printing, and they go with heat applied products all the time now.
Love it.
So we have a contract customer and their customer is we have an NDA, so I can't I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but it's a brand that everybody knows, and they're known for their crazy colors and designs, and it's a new customer for us. So I don't know, about a year ago we started working with them, and we would screen print stuff here and there, and they came to us with a piece of art that was just unbelievable art, like amazing color and use of color and detail in the design. And the order, I'm trying to remember what the order was. I think it was 8,000. It was 8,000 screen printed shirts is what it was. And at that quantity, screen printing really, from a price perspective, is the way to go versus heat applied product.
Yeah.
But because of the art and the fact that the company was they were launching a whole new vertical, we had some transfers made, because I wanted to show the customer. I mean, the screen print looked pretty amazing, but I wanted to show the customer how even more amazing that art would look as a transfer. And so we paid for it. We gave them the sample screen print. We gave them the sample transfer, and they loved the transfer. They absolutely fell in love with it, except for the fact that at the end of the day, in that particular circumstance, they weren't willing to pay the extra, $20,000 or whatever it costs, because it was at that quantity. It's a pretty significant difference.
Sure.
And so they couldn't quite stomach it, but there was a big back and forth. There was a really big back and forth at the corporate level of the company. Is it worth paying more for this unbelievable vibrancy and detail?
Yeah.
And ultimately they decided no, but they have now come back to us at least 20 times. And this was, I don't know how long, but at least 20 times, with art that's crazy, detailed, colorful, vibrant, and specifically now asked for it to be, direct to film transfers or various heat applied product methods. And our customer, because remember, it's our customer's customer, our customer is the only one offering them this technique, which I think is crazy. And so our customer loves us because she's getting extra orders from them, because she now has us in her exactly.
That's awesome. I mean, and there's several little key elements to that particular story situation. Not only did you show, your customer or your customer's customer that there was a way to really enhance their artwork by using a different method, whether it's screen printing, whether you go from standard embroidery to an embroidered patch, you go DTG to Ultracolor Max, or a direct to film transfer, whatever the comparison or the process is, you were able to say, I think I can make this better. And because you were able to do that, you created trust with that customer, that then gained trust with the other customer to come back and say, hey, we need to keep having this conversation, whether or not it was the right moment for that particular job. But you showed them the quality of work, you showed them how to enhance their design, and then really what your capabilities were. So that one transfer, even though it didn't, or that one, specific sample, even though it didn't take place then, it just opened the door, completely for so much more. Has there been times, when you've talked about, you have, the 360, you have embroidery equipment. Have you ever switched from here's how we would do it traditionally to maybe going to flex style patches and emblems and having that comparison on headwear?
Yes. And not just on headwear, honestly, so literally before I hopped on with you, I was talking to a customer, and he's got, I don't know what the job, it's 1,000 backpacks and 1,000 jackets. And he's got a pretty detailed logo, and we've now got him in the mentality of, like heat applied product is not a 4-letter word. And so in the past, most customers would come and say, I want this embroidered. But now we've already got him thinking about other techniques that we can offer because we've sampled so often in the past. And so he sent this artwork. And the truth is, so he sent some artwork and I couldn't open it on my phone, but he showed me the product he was decorating. And off the top of my head, I actually thought embroidery probably is the best technique for this. And then when he sent the art, I thought, oh man, that's a little bit too detailed. So I had this call with him like 45 minutes ago or whatever. And we are literally, that's exactly what we're going to do is we're going to digitize it. We're going to sew it, and we're going to play. And because of the nature of the design, I'm actually not even sure if flex style is the best option or if we want to go with a patch, because there's just some funkiness to it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to utilize Danny, who's awesome. And I'm going to send him the art and let him give me his feedback on what we think, what two techniques we do want to sample. And then we're going to sample all three. We're going to send it to the customer. He's actually, I didn't even talk about price, but he went out of his way to say, please make sure you charge me for this. Because we've got him used to the sampling mentality as well. Because he's, again, this is another broker, so he's going to ultimately get his customer. But again, ultimately, with all these tools in our tool belt, it allows us to better service him. He comes back to us more and more for the reliability. And again, we're using sampling to show all these different techniques that if we weren't willing to sample, we become a little more difficult to work with maybe, or his customer, talks to somebody else who's a little more willing to show options. And it just makes the whole experience better for the end user.
Because of that process, give us some pros and cons to creating samples, because there was a whole bunch of pros. And then of course, times could be money, cons could be time, money. What do you feel like are pros and cons to really creating various samples? Because it's not just one that you were adding in, you were sampling 3 different products.
Yeah. So time is probably the number one con for this scenario where it's 3 products and we're gonna have to take the time to digitize and sew it out a few times to even make it look as great as we possibly can. And then again, to talk to Danny, who is, by the way, my Stahls sales rep, for those who are wondering who Danny is. Is that his? I don't know what his title is. He's awesome. He's really the chief dude. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to spend time having a conversation with him. We're going to talk about it internally with our team. We're going to have to talk to the production team about how, we're sampling these one-off pieces. We're going to have to take the time to process the inbound shipment of one sample as opposed to a bulk order. So there's a lot of time. There is a lot of time, which of course costs money. There's the cost of the actual, well, in this case, digitizing. There's cost to that. Thread is fairly negligible. And then with the flex style and the patches, there's a cost to that too. But again, like, it takes money to make money. So in a scenario like this, we're happy to pay the, probably $100 to $200 all in. This might cost us for what is going to turn into a 2,000 piece order. And perhaps an order that size, with the relationship we have with you guys, maybe we get you to throw in one of those 2 samples. And now we reduce our expense a little bit by partnering with you guys, if that's an option.
So when it comes to creating samples, you talked a little bit about Stacy with SNS, and then Danny on our side. How important is it for you that you really build these relationships with the suppliers, whether you're getting equipment, inks, transfers, blanks? It's important for you to build a relationship with your customers, but it sounds like you've really built relationships with those that you work with in order to fulfill the jobs as well.
Totally. I mean, I think the relationship building is huge. It's so important from all aspects. Like you said, the people we buy chemicals from, to you guys, to our SNS reps and Sanmar, and it's huge. It's huge. And you never know when you're going to need a favor. So I often like to be the yes man when it comes to people asking us for favors, so that whenever we're in a bind, we always have all these places we can go to solve our problem. And it's really all about relationships. And that's why, like, we were talking earlier about shows. I love all the shows we go to, because not some shows are buying shows. You got to really learn to buy products. Some you learn about equipment. But at every show we go to, we're networking, not just with our peers, but with like you guys. And like, I think it's really underrated as you continue to grow your business and emergencies happen, how important it is to have a really good relationship with your vendors. Huge.
I think that is really kind of how the world has transitioned over the last couple of years, is really honing in on those relationships. Because like you said, you never know when you are going to need a favor or when you need help with something. And when you're in your situation where it's like, okay, I know I can make this better. I know I can do it differently. And I know I can show this customer what we're really capable of. That's a great time to lean on those around you to help bring that to life. And then it's you win. And like I said it earlier, you win, we win, right? Like if you're working with somebody, everybody's winning in that situation. And I think that's key to remember versus well, I have to do this for X, Y, and Z. It's more about locking arms and getting that done. Those of you that are tuning in, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments. We are getting ready to wrap up, but I just want to make sure that if you have any questions for Brian or myself, that we do get those answered live versus going back and responding on replays, which is also just fine. But I think it's great to always have that live interaction. So when it comes to samples, and you've said that you need to do samples even more than what you already do. Do you think there is something to be said about, sampling to get the proof of approval versus just a virtual proof? And then also really kind of building that relationship with your customer and, giving a thank you. Maybe it is branded merchandise of your own, but it's giving them a sample of what you can do, or really giving them a thank you of using an extra logo or design and putting it on a different product to try to get an upsale of that product, not necessarily the transfer.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So that's a good point. Like we do a lot of sampling. We send out a lot of samples that aren't even necessarily exact logo that customer's talking about at that time. We do that quite a bit. And you guys are awesome at giving us all kinds of crazy samples. I think I have a bunch sitting on my desk over here somewhere. Here's this one that you guys have probably given me 30 or 40 of these over the years. You've seen this before. I've given this to so many customers, and so you can talk about, in this case, Flex Style. It doesn't make sense until you see this, and then when you see this on a product, it just elevates it that much more. But the other thing with the samples we do, and yeah, we do digital proofs for everything. We like literally nothing happens here without at minimum a digital proof. But even when we send samples, not even for the sake of an upsell, but in the situation where we're literally sampling because it's a bigger order, we just want to make sure we get it right. Or sometimes customers specifically have a small order and they ask for a sample because they want a sample and they pay for it. One thing we always do that I think is huge, like so huge. This might be for me, like my favorite nugget of probably everything I'm going to say right now, is always package the sample really nicely. And so we'll always fold it and we'll bag it and we'll put a size sticker on it. And so now we give them the sample, and not only are we getting them, either to approve a sample or maybe it's for upsell purposes, but now we're double upselling because now we're showing them how awesome it feels to receive a product that's full, bagged, and tagged. And oh, by the way, we offer that service for an extra $1 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And not to mention the presentation is so nice that I feel like when you get something that's packaged like that, you're automatically going to like it better anyways, just because. And then you can vibe with the customer, the feeling they just got by receiving that package sample. Don't you want your customer to have that same feeling? By the way, we only charge you $1. You could probably charge your customer $5. You want to make more margin doing less? You already figured out the hard part, the colors and the Pantones and the size of the art. Let's fold, bag, and tag. You can't really screw that one up. And it's just like, to me, of all the things we do here, my favorite add-on is finishing, fold, bag, and tag, and private neck label, and kind of the finishing, because that's my favorite favorite way
But
to go.
it's still a sample, right? So you're still giving them a sample of what you can do. It just may be in a different format. It's not it's the decorated product, right? You're making it finished and beautiful of those decorated products, but it's still a sample of what your business can do. And I think something like that is, we all love an experience. We all love feeling like somebody made something special for us. It's just a natural warming, like, oh, that's what's mine. You get it, and you get excited for that. And even if maybe you don't offer that service, being able to do that type of presentation skill in the package of the sample or the thank you, whatever it is still going above and beyond. And you never know, somebody could come back and go, can you do this? Because I would really like, and then it opens up a whole other door or vertical for you to add to your business. And it's just something you were doing to beautify it, right? Like
Exactly.
it's so easy. So that was an incredible tip. I absolutely love like all the little nuggets of that, just because it's something so easy. It represents your business. It gives an experience, and it's very, very little in terms of time to have that presentation. Any other tips in terms of somebody looking to grow, whether it's reorders, building that loyalty and trust with customers, or really go out and gain new business simply by going, hey, this is something that we can do. Any tips when it comes to samples?
Again, this is like the most obvious thing, but in a previous lifetime, I did a lot of sales training. Literally just ask for the order. Just ask. We're a lot of us in this industry, we got in because it was a low barrier of entry. We were, as a hobby, or we were in a band, or a lot of people have a story like mine where they just did it in college for beer money or fraternities. It's really easy to get into this business. And so most of us are not these trained salespeople who have gone through sales training and all this stuff. And we so often get so excited about the bagging or this amazing art separation or this gradient or this technique or whatever, that we literally forget to ask for the order, which is really the most important part of the sales process. And so, asking, would you like fries with that? Would you like to upscale your popcorn from my movie theater days? And it's so easy. It's so easy to do it, but so often we don't. And so would you like to see a sample of this? Or you don't even ask, you give them the sample, but it doesn't stop by just giving them a sample. You then have to ask for their feedback on the sample that you gave them. And so just ask like that, and it costs nothing. To just ask for the order.
Just ask. I love it. It's easy, right? That's another one. Simple. I feel like there's been a couple of little statements that you've said that we should have been writing down, from Chief Dude to just ask. What was the other was another one. When in doubt, sample it out. What?
I don't think I said that, but sure, I'll take credit for it. That's yours. We'll give that one to Kelly.
Because you said when in doubt, and then something, and then sample, and then I think I added it out to make it rhyme. But there's been lots of really good nuggets for today's conversation. Brian, tell everybody how they can either follow you on your business journey, your website, get in touch with you. What's the best way to do all of that?
So we're on Instagram. We're pretty crappy at social media in general, but Instagram is Duds by Dudes. We're on Facebook that nobody checks. It's all our stuff is Duds by Dudes, dudsbydudes.com. My email, if anybody has questions, I'm like anybody wants to come to the shop, I'm like so open. There's no secrets here. So we're in San Diego if anybody wants to come by or whatever. But Brian, Brian at dudsbydudes.com. Email is really truly the best way to get me, and we are a very, very open book.
I love it. That's easy. And you know what? Social media is social media. It's okay. You got so many other things going on.
Yeah.
No stress on that. All right, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to tune in and join us live on this podcast. This whole process for Heat Press for Profit is designed to have conversations with apparel decorators just like you and industry experts, so we can hopefully have an impact on your business. And hopefully today's conversation about sample success, driving orders with effective sampling strategies today with Brian, inspired you or at least gave you a little nugget of information on how to help you grow. If you haven't already, head to Facebook and join the Heat Press for Profit community, where there is a whole bunch of decorators just like Brian, and conversations where you can get opinions, you can get advice. There's always great conversations going on. If you have not followed our channel, then make sure you subscribe to the Heat Press for Profit podcast on any platform that you listen to podcasts. Brian, thank you so much for taking your time and letting me just pick your brain on samples and sharing your business with us.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'll see you in Long Beach, I guess, probably.
You will see me in Long Beach. Yep. I'll see you in what, 2.5 months?
2.5 months after, very tiring PPAI just before that.
I know. I'll look forward to being in California when we have snow on the ground here in Kansas. All right, guys. We'll see you next time, and happy Friday.